teaching for women. So I'm going to read Ephesians 2, starting at verse 8. So by grace you are saved through faith, and not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man boast. Grace first at all is conviction. Let's go to the Titus 2:11. Grace. For the grace of God that brings salvation has appeared to all men. It appears to all men. Agnostics, non-believers, all men. So it appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness, and worldly lust, we should live soberly and righteously and godly in the present world. Grace teach you to obey God. It convicts you. It teaches you, tells you you need to keep the 10 Commandments. You know, like every time you feel this thing in your stomach that tells you, no, that's wrong, what you're doing. That is God's grace that appeared to all men to teach us to deny ungodliness and worldly lust and live soberly and righteously. The righteousness of God are his 10 Commandments. And you can see that on Psalm 172, no, 119, 172. And you can also see that on Deuteronomy 6:25. The righteousness of God are his 10 Commandments. So, wherefore, remember that you being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision, by which is called the circumcision of the flesh by hands. Well, see, they don't have to circumcise anymore by hands, because those were the laws given after transgression to the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai. The 10 Commandments were given orally on Mount Horeb, where they said, okay, we're going to keep your commandments and we're going to do everything you tell us to. But then they went to Sinai, and that's when they made the golden calf. So they broke the 10 Commandments. So God kicked them out of the land. So there's 2 different laws. There's the 10 Commandments written by the finger of God into tables of stone, where he added no more, Deuteronomy 5:22. And then you have the sacrificial law, which is the law of sin and death. Those are the works that he's talking about here. Not of works. There's good works that you need to do. Because you're not circumcising your Johnson anymore. You're circumcising your heart. That at that time you were without Christ. You were without Messiah, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. You were aliens from the commonwealth of Israel before Messiah came and took that sacrificial law, nailed it to the cross, and refreshed the 10 Commandments, giving the chance to the Gentiles to get grafted into the commonwealth of Israel so we can all be children of God. That at that time you were without Messiah, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenants of promise. Those covenants of promise are your 10 commandments and the rainbow covenant. The rainbow covenant that was made with Noah, about the animals, that's one of the covenants. You're not supposed to eat unclean. Having no hope and without God in the world. So before you enter into those covenants, you had no hope and you have no God in the world. Being a Gentile is not going to take you to New Jerusalem, is not going to take you to heaven. You need to be grafted into the Commonwealth of Israel, keeping the 10 Commandments and eating clean. But now in Yeshua Messiah, you who sometimes were far off are made nigh by the blood of Messiah. When you say that you're covered by the blood of Jesus, well, you're not covered by no blood. The blood of Messiah went on top of the mercy seat. That's Ron Wyatt Discoveries. The blood went on the mercy seat. That is what covers the Ark of the Covenant. For he is our peace, who had made both one and have broken down the middle wall of partition between us. Now we're a spiritual Israel, right? Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments containing ordinances. Ordinances. To make himself a twain and new man. So mankind can be making peace. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments. Those were the laws given for transgression to the 10 Commandments. Those 316 laws. Those were the ones nailed to the stake, to the pole, to the cross. We are to keep the 10 Commandments. That's how you love God. Messiah told you, love God and love your neighbor, right? Are you loving God? You're not loving God. Because to love God is to keep his commandments. 1 John 5:2. For 1 John 5:3, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. So we need to keep the 10 Commandments, including the Sabbath. That's the 4th commandment. That's the sign between him and us. We were, okay. Okay, so this is mainly it. We're supposed to do the good works, are to rebuke your neighbor, which is to love your neighbor, and your 10 Commandments, to learn them and teach them, especially to your children, because that's the 5th commandment. To honor your mother and your father, that's to teach your children the 10 Commandments. So yeah, I have made more videos about this, but it's so important that you women understand that the 10 Commandments written by the finger of Jehovah, of God, are different than the laws given for transgression to the Holy Covenant, written by Moses with his hand in a book. It was put on the outside of the book it was put on the outside of the covenant, of the Ark of the Covenant. The 10 Commandments went inside the Ark. This book was put on the side. So it's different. You need to keep the 10 Commandments if you love God. And the time will come If we go to the last book of the Bible, we go to the book of Revelations, last page. Revelation 22:14. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life, and may enter through the gates into the city. Heaven. For without are dogs, sorcerers, whoremongers, murderers, idolaters, and whoever love and make a lie. I, Joshua, have sent my angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star. You need to keep the 10 Commandments. You need to eat clean. And once you're doing that, you go and tell your neighbor everything that you know, so they don't suffer the consequences of sin. And the time is so near, and nobody wants to listen, because everybody wants to do their own thing, but not obeying God. And he's coming back with his 144, and he's going to destroy everybody and everything. So please keep the 10 Commandments. Eat clean. Don't eat pig. Pig is dirty too. If you go and tell others and teach others to keep the 10 Commandments, because that's what the Messiah came to do. He came to refresh the Holy Covenant, get rid of sacrificial law. That's what he was nailed to the cross, the sacrificial law. and give us that new commandment that is not a new commandment. It's an old commandment, to love your neighbor as yourself. Again, if you love God, obey him.